Hey, what is going on, guys? It's the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video. And, so, this video is going to be a little touchy subject here. And I want to stress to my viewers this because we are going to get into a very, very, really kind of awkward type discussion here. But I wanted people to understand my opinion and point of view on this. And I just want people to understand this. So for anybody that doesn't know, Dark Side of the Rings, which is a very good series, one of the reasons why I really like Dark Side of the Ring is that they talk about pro wrestling topics from an unbiased perspective and not just from a WWE Shield perspective. A lot of shows that are produced by WWE, they kind of put their own narrative and spin on it. And I'm not a big fan of that. I like to hear an unbiased, like, from both sides, not just WWE side, but I like to hear it from other point of views that are not from WWE side. And that's where Dark Side of the Rings, I think, does a really good job with a lot of their episodes. And don't get me wrong, there are some episodes that I'm not a big fan of. Too, I was not a fan of the Randy Savage episode. There are a couple in there too, but they did really good with obviously the two-part Benoit episode. I thought the two-part episode with Benoit was really good. But the most recent episode they did was the plane ride from hell, which for anybody who doesn't know what the plane ride from hell, it's basically an incident where WWE did like a European tour, and when they were coming back from the 4-day tour, a lot of the wrestlers on this, first class plane, basically, it's basically an airplane it's a commercial airplane. It's basically only the wrestlers, and the wrestling WWE employees are on this plane, basically. And then, of course, the workers, the plane attendants, and the pilots and whatnot. And so, basically, this happened, I believe it happened in 2002. I don't exactly remember when it was in terms of the month, but I know it was in 2002. I kind of forget. I think it was after WrestleMania. I want to say it was after WrestleMania. Yeah, it had to have been right after WrestleMania 18 because that was when Scott Hall was still there. But I don't remember the exact month it was. But anyways, basically the plane ride from hell, a lot of the wrestlers got drunk because there was a 7-hour delay. And they got drunk once the plane started to go up. They basically continued to get drunk, and everybody then started to fight each other, basically. And so yeah, there was a bunch of chaos. That's kind of basically the short, brief story of it. And a couple people got fired for this. I think some got fined, and it led to a lawsuit from a couple of the plane attendant workers. Because they had been, like, kind of violated by the wrestlers. Not physically, but, they were, kind of inappropriate things were being shown, basically, from the wrestlers. So anyways. So, this happened in 2002. It's been well documented by multiple people. One of the issues I have coming out of this Dark Side of the Ring episode was the idea that this whole plane ride from hell thing is new news. if you're a wrestling fan and you're someone that pretty much has followed wrestling, you pretty much have known the story about this. Most people are well aware of some of what the wrestlers did in this incident. Um, the stuff with Scott Hall, the stuff with Flair, obviously, which that's the main topic of this. We'll get to that. The fight with Curt Hennings and Brock Lesnar. A lot of this stuff was covered already. A lot of this stuff, I believe ESPN 30 had covered this as well, a couple years ago. So when Dark Side of the Ring's episode came out a couple of days ago, people have been acting like this is new information and are pissed off at Ric Flair and they're pissed off at these guys and whatnot. And look, if you guys are pissed off at what Ric Flair did, or allegedly did, at this time, that's fine. I don't agree with the allegations that were put in front of Flair. I didn't agree with the stuff that he was accused of years ago when I found out about what he'd done, or allegedly had done. But my issue is people acting like this is new information. Like, why did it take you guys a Dark Side of the Ring episode for you guys to realize that Flair allegedly has done something wrong? Because this is not new information. This is not. I'm trying to get to the point here. This is not new information, and there was obviously a lawsuit that, of course, was settled out of court. This is not new information. This has been documented for years. This is, just because it's now being covered by Dark Side of the Ring does not mean that this isn't something that hasn't been reported. There's been YouTubers that have done, very good coverages of this. WrestleMania, for example, did a really good piece on it a couple of years ago. Shout out to WrestleMania for anybody who doesn't know about them. They do really good, YouTube videos on stuff like this. This isn't new information, and this is not new. The allegations against Ric Flair and what he did to a flight attendant when he was drunk is not new information. There are a lot of skeletons in the shadows of a lot of our great, and our favorite wrestlers in the WWE and WCW. And, obviously, everybody knows Hulk Hogan back in 2015, he basically said some very inappropriate stuff that got exposed that he had said years ago. He got fired for that, which was the right thing to do at the time. But this whole thing with Flair has been out there for 20 years, and no one batted an eye about it until this Dark Side of the Ring episode came out. And that really, like I said, I mean, these things have been floating around a year ago, 2 years ago. I mean, this is not new. Like, people are acting like this is new. Like, all this stuff just came out today. And it didn't. It came out, it's been out for years. It's, just because you've seen it on Dark Side of the Rings doesn't mean that this isn't new information. Like I said, the courts as well, I believe ESPN 30 covered it a couple years ago. It really kind of surprises me that this is what is really, kind of pulling Ric Flair back in terms of commercials and whatnot. Obviously, his woo at the beginning of the WWE intro has been pulled. Obviously, Ric Flair currently is not with the company. He was released, and this is public knowledge, by WWE a couple weeks before the episode. A lot of people are speculating that this is why they parted ways. maybe it was. I know he did appear on NWA television. He still did praise WWE, of course, but it's very, very interesting that this is what um, why people are all of a sudden upset about it now, when it's been, out there for a long time. Stone Cold Steve Austin, he had allegations against Deborah, that, has been well documented, but obviously no one has gone after Stone Cold. And Stone Cold is obviously one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He's my second favorite wrestler behind Randy Savage. Um, and no one seems to be like, we gotta cancel him. It's really weird because like I said, a lot of these information has been out for years, and people are batting an eye. What, if Dark Side of the Ring does a thing on Stone Cold, we're gonna go after Stone Cold now too. I mean, um, we're gonna go after Stone Cold now too. I mean, it's just, I just think it's just kind of weird now, especially since it's not like this hasn't been out there for a while now. I mean, you can go back a year ago. This has been out there. It's not something new. Um, um, I don't know what, I think the thing with the Dark Side of the Ring episode that was resident to a lot of people, and this is just my speculation on it, is that he wasn't punished. He didn't get fined or fired or anything, from the plane ride from hell, and he was one of the offenders, so to speak, one of the big time offenders of the plane ride from hell. Scott Hall got fired. Kurt Hennings, may he rest in peace, aka Mr. Perfect, may he rest in peace. He, he got fired, of course, shortly after he was fired from WWE. He unfortunately passed away, not too long after, so he never got to come back even to WWE even after he was fired. Goldust was gone for a little bit. He did eventually come back. He's currently now with AEW. But, I mean, I don't know. I just think this is one of those things where it's like, people are now trying to punish him because they seem to not realize that this happened, even though it's been public knowledge for a while. I don't understand the sentiment of it. I mean, it's Ric Flair. I mean, Ric Flair is Ric Flair. I mean, Tommy Dreamer, I can understand why people were upset with him and his comments. I like Tommy Dreamer. I think his comments were a little over the top. Talking about saying how, that was okay back then, but then, say that, oh no, it absolutely would not work today. You shouldn't do that today. But then, he said, back in that era, it was just one of the boys or whatever. I think Tommy Dreamer, that comment was going a little too far, because that's not something you should say. Just because it happened years ago does not excuse Ric Flair's actions. I absolutely don't agree with Tommy Dreamer's comment on that. Putting, yourself out there to a female that isn't interested in you, and Ric Flair was not on television, shouldn't be doing that. I mean, that was real life. That wasn't him, coming out to the arena, playing his character. That was him in an airplane, off television, doing something that he shouldn't be doing. And that's something he should not have done. Um, I get he was drunk. I mean, all those wrestlers were drunk. So it's still not something that should be done. You know, I think WWE themselves should have handled it better. Because obviously WWE back then just felt like they could just get away with anything that they can. And obviously, you know, WWE has changed since then. They obviously wouldn't be doing this stuff today. But, you know, back then, you know, they obviously didn't handle this correctly. And, you know, obviously, you know, when they told the story about the alcohol, you know, allowing them to get alcohol, you know, getting, you know, I think they said that, you know, they were waiting the 7 hour delay or whatever. There was like, you know, they drank all the cats, you know, and they had to buy a second one and a third one. They had to put, you know, a second and a third one in there. My whole thing to that would be, why did you put a second and a third one in there? I would have just cut them off. I've been like, look, you guys drank all of that stuff. You're done now. And I would have, like, you know, Vince McMahon supposedly was on this plane. And, like, you know, I think the attendants and the pilots should have been like, look, they drank the entire alcohol tray. We're not allowing any more. Like, they're completely intoxicated. You know, that's a thing. You know, if that story is true, I think that they should have been just completely cut off right from there. So I do think the airplane staff kind of really screwed up on a lot of fronts here with this. You know, not saying that it's all their fault, because obviously the wrestlers are controlling of their own actions, but allowing big wrestlers, okay, big strong wrestlers, 3 kegs of alcohol, okay, on an airplane when you're in the sky, I don't think that's a good idea. Okay? You know, you're talking about these big, huge wrestlers, and you're allowing them to have 3 different access to kegs of beer, alcohol. Come on. Okay, really? That's just insane. Okay? The whole thing with Scott Hall was just kind of... the whole thing with Scott Hall was kind of sad because, you know, that wouldn't be the last instance of Scott Hall's, you know, alcoholism. You know, as we all know, after Scott Hall was fired from that plane ride from hell, you know, his life kind of got worse from there. He's doing better now. I actually got the pleasure of a couple of years ago actually meeting Scott Hall and Kevin Nash at Nickel City Con. And he was really good. A lot of people had told me that when they met Scott Hall, he was, you know, like when they met him at conventions, he was kind of a dick. And when I met Scott Hall, he was really nice. Like, I was, like, expecting worse. And I was shocked. He was probably the nicest out of every person I met there that day. You know, out of the two, you know, Bischoff, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, he was, like, very talkative. He was, you know, that was the day I met also Shella Lee, the voice of Lucy. I talked to her a lot at that convention, but, you know, Kevin Nash, like, or not Kevin Nash, I'm sorry, Scott Hall, Reza Ramon, he was nice, like, straight up. Like, I was expecting the worst going in, and he was very nice. He was very talkative. He was very good spirits. I'm very happy for him that he's getting his life back together. But the whole thing with this plane ride for hell kind of, kind of reminded us of, what Scott Hall's gone through since he's been released from WWE in 2002. But the whole thing with Ric Flair, I can't speak for it. What actually happened, because I'm sure some of the story that they said on Dark Side of the Rings, I'm sure some of it may have been kind of screwed in some way for each guy, but I'm sure a lot of that is accurate to what happened. I'm sure the Brock and Kurt Hennings thing has been told so much. That I definitely think. The thing that surprised me about that story, though, I will say, which I wasn't aware of this. I knew they had a fight in that whole thing. But the one thing I didn't realize is that they actually fought to the point where they actually hit the emergency button on the emergency door. The emergency door, like, that was holy crap. Like, I couldn't believe that, because like they even said, it's like, the reason why they started letting go on one another was they had thought that by accidentally pressing the emergency door button, that the emergency door was going to actually go open on them, and they were in the air, obviously. So if they would have fell out, they would have died. So that story really shocked me, the Brock and Kurt Hennings whole thing, because I knew they had a scuffle on the airplane, which led to Kurt Hennings getting released. But I didn't realize that they fought where they Brock freaking speared him to the point where he got him to the point where he hit the emergency door button, and they basically let up because of the fact that they thought the door was going to open, because they hit the button. That account from the flight attendant I thought was really interesting. But yeah, this is it's a really interesting story. And I'm not pissed that Dark Side of the Ring is covering it, because I do like that Dark Side of the Ring covers stuff from an unbiased perspective and tries to keep everything, pro wrestling like, and not necessarily WWE like, when they're telling their stories for documentaries. But I just think it's kind of really weird that people are just like, well, we're going to go after Ric Flair now, even though these allegations have been out there for years. And maybe it's just because of the fact that Flair never got fired, I guess, from WWE. Is that why people are pissed about it? I don't know. But I just think it's kind of weird, because this has been out there. This was out here. This is not new information. This has been something that has been on Flair and the WWE's plate for years. And now people are upset about it because it was covered in Dark Side of the Rings. I don't know. I'm not trying to excuse any of the things that these guys did on the plane, especially if any of it's true. I'm just going to say, and Flair has since put out a press release denying these allegations. I should put that out there as well. But I just want to say that, like, I don't excuse any of the stuff that he may have done. If it's true, it's really bad for him to have done it. But I just think it's kind of weird that, a Dark Side of the Ring episode is why people are pissed. When this has been new information for years. People have covered this for years. So that's my thoughts on this. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate. If you like to see my reviews, please subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about this issue. Do you agree with the backlash, or do you think this is like, why this has been out there for years? Why are you coming after him now? Let me know what you guys think about this. This is quite an interesting discussion, I think. Like I said, I don't excuse anything he did, or I should say may or may have not done, if these allegations are true. But I'd like to know what people are thinking on this. Let me know what you guys think. I'm out of here. MDS Ultimate Goku. I'm out of here. Peace.